But looking at all these different design principles, I start to wonder, like, okay, I'm spotting these patterns, like if it's an even number like 10, that's a bit suspicious. What else can I spot in the overall meta patterns that point to whether this is a good list of design principles or a not so good list of design principles? Effectively, what I'm asking here is, are there design principles for design principles? And I think there might be, or guidelines at least. So for example, if you see a design principle that says something like, make it usable, I would say that's a bad design principle. It's not a bad design principle because I disagree with it, quite the opposite. It's a bad design principle because I agree with it, and so does everybody else. How are you going to disagree with that? Make it usable. It's so agreeable that there's not much point framing it like this. Now, if you were to reframe it more like this, to say, usability is more important than profitability. Ooh, now that's a controversial one. Now we're talking. Now we can have that discussion because somebody can go, actually, I'm not sure I agree with that. And you can hammer that out in an early stage. Because what happens here is you've got prioritization. And that's what matters, is saying, not just we value these things, but to say, we value these things in this order. And that's where design principles become useful, not for everyone agreeing. They're not some like kumbaya sitting around the campfire. Yeah, we all agree on this. The point of design principles is to hammer out disagreements early on to figure out, oh, actually, are you aligned with the principles of this project? So here's a framing that I think works really well for design principles. It's to say blank even over blank. So one thing you value even over another thing you value. So it really highlights the prioritization. So you could say something like usability even over profitability. And I think that's a valuable design principle for some organizations. The other nice thing about this framing is it kind of helps you do another kind of smell test on a design principle, which is it reversible? In other words, if you went to a completely different organization with a different set of values, different purpose, could you imagine that design principle being reversed? So somewhere else, they might have a design principle saying profitability even over usability. And it would make sense in that context for that organization. So if you see a design principle that just seems, like everyone agrees with it, there's no disagreement, it's probably not that useful. What you want are design principles specific to the project you're working on.